good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. I hope you are well. Today I am presenting to you yet another pixel art Speedpaint speed pixel video, and this is going to be for the newest boss, Baba Yaga. If you don't know, Baba Yaga is like a crazy witch, marshland, spirity person. There's probably better definitions out there. Not gonna lie. This boss was sort of inspired a little bit by doing the swamp zombies that you may or may not have seen. I did a series of little zombie types that inhabit marshes and stuff like that. So she's kind of taken from that. As you can see here, I decided that she needed an eye patch for whatever reason. I think I've been watching too much Metal Gear Solid gameplay. So just working on the face, using the mage as a, don't know what you call it really, as a bit of a template, more or less. So working on trying to get him looking, or trying to get her looking all nice and gross with the wrinkles and the face lines and stuff like that. Using the mage as a template obviously makes things a little bit easier because I spent a lot of time trying to get the hood shape right on the mage when I initially constructed that character, and so using a template obviously helps speed the development process along. It's something they use in video games, so they'll frequently copy things and use things as templates, stuff like that. So I thought it might feel like cheating sometimes, but it's not, I promise. So here we are, just blocking out the colours, blocking out the hood, messing around with the eye, trying to get like some kind of pose. Now I like the idea of making her look like a wretched kind of, like a poor old woman, like almost like you'd feel sorry for her. Very classic sort of fairy tale stuff. So if you think about like Hansel and Gretel, like fairy tales like that, where there's a kindly looking old lady, but actually she's kind of a bad guy. That's what our boss is. So she looks like an old woman, but actually she's a really mean spirit. If you've seen Disney Pixar's Brave, a little bit like that, but mean and rude, rather than just a witch in a forest. For those who don't know, the one who turns her into a bear. So just working on adding a little bit of texture to this kind of cloak here, blocking out the shapes again. So this is really tricky if anyone is watching is an artist. Doing folds in clothes without practice is really hard. And even with practice, it's really hard. There's ways and means to make it look like there's folds in clothes, and so I've tried to do that the best I can. But it's in pixel art, obviously every pixel matters, so you've got to make sure that it's kind of, I don't want to say perfect because that's the wrong word, but you've got to make sure that it reads in the right way. So there we are, just testing it against the last boss that we did, the Wendigo, and seeing what sort of details we need to add. So getting a bit more of the lighting on there as well is quite important. I remember thinking at this stage, just looking at it, it was like with all my pieces, for anyone who's watched any of the other videos, I sit there and look at it for a few seconds at a time and think, is this right? Am I going in the right direction? What's next? And you see as the process of the piece continues, there's a lot of zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, because everything from a distance has to read as well, where it looks great when you're super zoomed in and you think, okay, yeah, that's perfect, and then you zoom out and realise that there's a block of pixels next to each other that from a distance just read too much like a block. So there's all that kind of stuff to balance as well, which I don't think you really get from these videos because they're so sped up. This is 2000% speed, which I know the Donald Trump School of Maths would have you believe that's not a percent. It is, unfortunately, a way of expressing numbers. So this is playing at 2,000 times the amount of time it would take. So the final runtime for everything was about 3.5 hours, and this video is condensed to 10 minutes ish, give or take. Just getting a few more of these creases in, lighten her up. So this bit I struggled with a little bit, is trying to make those folds read as though they were going over her shoulder with the 3 colours that I used. That was quite tricky. But then we keep working, we just keep plodding on. We just keep plodding on. Replicating bits and sort of taking lighter colours, because I think when I'm zooming out, it looks too, the creases look too deep. So trying to soften that out with some of the other colours. And moving on to the hands a little bit, and then moving on to the other arm. Because the hands were, obviously they were just a silhouette to start with, but they were bothering me so much I had to just change them. A few more creases, wasn't happy. Those were my little faces, so I thought I'd do a bit of lighting, so it sort of blends her into the background a little bit. You can see the mage underneath there. So I thought we were lacking a little bit of contrast, especially in areas like that would be really, really deeply dark. So the hollows of her sleeves, as well as the hood. And I think this looks like black. It's not actually black. It's like a very, very dark green, which I think is important, because black is, like, pure black is not very common, even in pitch darkness. You know, it's very hard to not pick something out. So yeah, there's a lot of arguments in art that you should never use black. Really, I could have used like a dark purple or something to illustrate that, but I thought the green theme worked better. And I was working on bedding in these folds and making them look a little bit more like folds rather than whatever they looked like before, because it just wasn't right. It's my favourite part of the process, this kind of dithering and blending. And at this point I've created a layer called Scruff because the robes looked a little bit too clean around that kind of hairline. So now this bit I was really nervous for. Anyone who is an artist watching this again will probably empathise with how difficult hands can be to draw. And so I pulled up a little reference of like old people's hands, you know, like the sort of hunched over kind of, like they've seen, you know, years of use and abuse and hand washing with chemicals and all that sort of stuff gives you that kind of, I don't know the word, like almost like a translucent skin. As you get older, your skin goes a little bit more translucent. So you'll see in a minute where I start adding some of the greens in, that adds just like a slightly sickly tone, so that it doesn't quite look as fresh and pinky. Yeah, the sort of knuckles were quite important as well, because on the reference image that I used, you can see that the knuckles are definitely very obviously like swollen, arthritic, and just not healthy. There's nothing wrong with it, obviously, but that was the sort of thing I want to go for. I want you to feel a little bit sorry for her. Like, oh, poor old woman with all this arthritis, and then she's like, I will eat your soul. You know, that was important to get that across. So now just a little bit of the hair, that sort of scraggly look where it's like under the hood, but it's almost greasy and kind of falling out in a way that looks kind of odd. Like, you still feel sorry for her, but you know she if you saw her on the street, you'd probably walk on the other side. And then trying to make her look a little bit more menacing with these kind of like missing teeth and a bit of a snarl type of look to her. Just adjusting the lighting, checking the different layers, and now it's time to put her on a card. So change the name to Baba Yaga for some reason, and it should be Baba Yaga. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.